posted something on Instagram yesterday and I got a lot of positive feedback. So I'm going to post it here on YouTube, but YouTube is a different audience, so it may be a little bit more controversial, but I don't care. It needs to be said. A lot of you guys are effed up. We're all effed up. However, I'm going to be very, very transparent when I say this, and I really don't care about the reaction. My goal with this channel, which is a separate channel from my main channel, is to kind of get you guys straight, to cut out all types of distractions, to kind of focus on what it is that you want to accomplish out of life, which is freedom. It doesn't have to necessarily mean a multi-millionaire. It just means financial independence and freedom. You don't need therapy as much as you think you do. A lot of people are completely trapped in therapy sessions for the last 5 years. I see people online and, saying, they've been on, they're on 86 pills and a bunch of antidepressants and they're in therapy. And it's just like, what happened in your life that caused you to get in that situation? And for me, I want to preface this video by actually saying that there's only, a short few scenarios where I think that applies, right? Like, death in the family. Nobody can tell you can't, grieve in that scenario, right? Sexual assault. Those are things where it's like, this is very, very serious and you guys need all the therapy you can get. But when it comes to just life in general, people are in therapy just because they feel lost in life, just because they don't know what to do with their life. And it's like, you are very, very young. Relax. Like, there's so much for you to learn online on YouTube and just going out on your own and actually taking action. And the reality of the situation is you don't need therapy. You just have to realize who you were before somebody had you effed up. Just think about that for a second. A lot of us went through certain situations that caused us to kind of rely on a best friend or rely on X, Y, and Z. And before that happened, you guys looked at yourself as a diamond, as, someone who is like completely high valued. And then when that said thing happened, now you feel like you're worthless and you're trying to find your worth back through, a unbiased person. And the reality of the situation is you are still that person. It's just the person who had you effed up has exactly that. You need to literally castrate them from your life and your mind. What I mean by that is that breakup that happened, somebody who literally cheated on you or led you along and then 3 years later told you they didn't want you anymore, college kicking you out, selling drugs and going to jail. Like, there's a bunch of traumatic situations that happen that you can obviously change your life from. And the reality of the situation is if you just realize who you were before that or who you want to be after that, everything becomes a lot easier. What I told Bailey the other day was that because she did a podcast and her manager was with her and they pulled me on the podcast and they said what I was saying was like kind of brash and direct. They liked it, but it was very, very like direct and maybe harsh. But basically what I was saying is that you are responsible for everything that happens in your life. There's not a single thing in your life aside from, like I said, like murder and things like that, right? But like in terms of where you are in life, the job you have, the money you're making, that is not your fault. Like, you're born in a situation that is not your fault because you were born in that situation. But where you are in your life right now, the 30-year-old grown adult, that is your fault. People are walking around saying, oh, I don't open up, or oh, I can't be vulnerable, or oh, I'm scared of rejection, or oh, I'm quiet and I isolate myself, or oh, you're a grown ass adult. And at some point in time, you have to realize that everything you want out of life, you can actually get. You're the only one that's stopping you there. There's not this barrier that's stopping you. Donald Trump or Kamala is not stopping you. The government is not stopping you. All that doesn't matter. What matters is you are not doing enough on your day-to-day life to actually get there. And if you think about it, if you actually look at your notes and see what am I actually writing down per day, right? In terms of what I want to accomplish in this world. Like, what are the 5 things that I wrote down at the start of 2025 and say, oh, this is what I want to accomplish. And then you look up on a random July 8th, 2025, in a couple months from now, and you see what you're doing and you realize you're not even working towards those goals. A lot of your goals are very, very simple. It can just be, oh, a lot of you guys have been saying, I want to lose 10 pounds for the last 8 months. It's 10 pounds. It is not that difficult, but you guys aren't doing the right things. You guys don't care about it enough to actually eat the right foods, actually go to the gym and put that as a priority in your life. The things that actually happen and matter is when something, and here's 2 things that can happen. On one end, something so traumatic can happen, traumatic to your life can happen that forces you to, work on what you want to get to, while the other thing forced you to kind of retreat and crumble and not really focus on that direction. On the first end, you look at Layla Hermosi talk about how she was overweight and how, she went to a party at a high school reunion and a lot of her friends were just like, you're so pretty, but you're just so fat now. And that caused her to just lose a whole bunch of weight and kind of focus on what she was doing. And she said in her video, she said, even though it hurt my feelings, they were right. Kobe was ranked the number 57th best player in high school. So he had a kill list of the 56 players they had literally ahead of him So anytime he played them in an actual basketball game, he made sure to dominate them so that he could, surpass them in the rankings. Again, traumatic event to where he's like, you got me as in the top 50s, not number 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but number 50. Are you crazy? Right? So it's like those traumatic events can actually help you push you forward. And obviously you guys know the story about me when I was 19 years old and I got cheated on, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make her regret ever leaving me that way. And that was a catalyst to actually me becoming a multi-millionaire. That was one of the reasons. Obviously the other reason was, again, why am I working so hard? And I've made over 8 figures. Why am I still going as if I was broke? Because I remember sleeping in a shelter when I was 6 years old. I remember sleeping in a shelter when I was 13 as well, right? I remember being in shelters at different points in times where I was just like, I'm never gonna put my kids through that, and I'm never gonna get to that again. Again, traumatic events. Whereas on the other side, a lot of people, like I said, are on a bunch of pills and heavily depressed. It's like, what are you so depressed for? Like, no, seriously, like there's people out here taking their last, breath. There's people out there who are actually homeless. You have a roof over your head. You have food to eat every single day. You're healthy. You don't have any diseases. You don't have any STDs. You don't have cancer. And you're over here walking through life as if, you're about to die and you're just too depressed to get out of bed. And it's actually pathetic. I'm not even gonna lie. It actually is, right? But it's 2 different ways that people go about certain scenarios. And when it comes to that actual thing is realizing what it is that actually happened to you, that you actually care about so much that you will rather die than actually not see it come to life, right? Like you'd actually literally would rather die than to not work as hard. You got to figure out what it is, because it's something. It is actually something. And this is what I mean by what I just said 2 minutes ago about losing the 10 pounds or the 15 pounds, because it's like, it doesn't mean that much to you. But when you find something that means that much to you, then you realize, I want to do it in a second. There was a post on social media. It was a guy who posted on Reddit, and he was a male. He's 38 years old. He said, my female wife, who's 35 years old, has been, gaining weight over the years. However, I still thought she was beautiful. I thought she was desirable. I still wanted to have sex with her. She was still the love of my life. Didn't matter at all, but she started to gain more and more weight. I did not care. I still thought she was the love of my life. And then eventually on year 2, she just started losing a whole bunch of weight, like just was living in the gym, like every single day, living in the gym all day, every day. And to the point to where she was, where she was when I first met her, which was a couple years ago. And I loved her either way, overweight or not. But there was a point in time for like 2 months straight, she just lived in the gym to where she just lost all that weight and got back to normal. And what happened was she was at work one time and, her iPad kept ringing. And this is the husband on Reddit saying he went on the iPad and saw that she was texting her girlfriends that there's this cute guy at the workplace where she works at who literally told one of their friends that her, the wife, would be somebody he would want to date if she was a little bit skinnier. And that caused her to get in the gym because she wanted to impress him, and she wants to cheat on her husband essentially and be with him. And that crushed the husband because he thought she was just losing weight just to lose it because she cared about it. But she found a reason to actually lose the weight that meant so much to her that she literally stayed in the gym for literally 2. I mean, this is a real post. I favorited it on Twitter. If I can find the post, I'll literally put a screenshot up here when the video is playing. It's a real post the husband actually made, where again, the wife found something that meant so much to her that she literally didn't care what happened, didn't care about anything. She made it happen to where she got to that point. Now, of course, now the marriage is effed up because the husband found that out, but that's not the point. The point of the story is when you find something that you care about a lot, you don't need to sit down for 2 hours straight. I was watching, like I said, Suits the other day, and Louis Litt was complaining because his therapist was like, all right, time's up, right, you gotta leave. And it's just he's just starting to actually, open up and be vulnerable and pour his heart out, but he has to, pay more money. And again, it's a business, of course. So I'm never going to knock therapy in general. What I'm saying is you guys are heavily reliant on it for years at a time. I'm all for being in therapy for a year and getting closure on situations or opening up about situations and being a better human being. But I have a friend who said, I've been in therapy since 2018. Bro, it's been 6 years. If you haven't gotten over it yet, it's again to a point to where I'm not sugarcoating things anymore, man. It's been 6 years and it's still the same. And it's not anything bad. It's just they just feel lost in life. They don't know what they want to do with their career. You don't need therapy for that. You need to just go in the world and actually see what matters to you. What you actually love to do. Do you love being, a nurse? Do you love, being on social media? Do you hate social media? Do you want to just travel for the rest of your life? Cool. But it's going out in the world and actually applying real life, experiences and just trying things out and failing. There's nothing wrong with failing. What's wrong is if you never ever try at all in any scenario. I've failed for years when it came to trading, and I've failed for a whole bunch of times when it came to starting things, whether it may be business, even my YouTube channel, right? This is Like, this is obviously my second YouTube channel. This is more successful because my main YouTube channel is around 600,000 subscribers. So I know what I'm doing now. But before that 600,000, I was posting on YouTube and getting 300 views. I was literally getting nothing on YouTube until I figured out what made the most sense. It's actually trying and failing. And back to what I said on Instagram that I started this video off is, a lot of you guys don't need that or need all the pills. You just got to realize who you were before all of this happened and who you want to be afterwards. Because a lot of you guys have a lot of special, unique characteristics about you. Nobody else in this world has your exact life and what you guys are going through. And once you realize that, and you realize that you're valuable, and realize that one guy out of, you know, all the men in the world is not the make or break or end all be all, or even one female out of all the females in the world is the end all be all. Bro, I was going so hard because of my ex cheated on me when I was 18 years old, thinking, oh, that was the love of my life and blah, 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 blah. I'm never going to find anybody as good as her. And then I found my wife, right? Like, and now me and my wife, you know, we can talk about anything, where we're open about everything. And it's not even a comparison in that regard. You know what I mean? And you guys will always see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to actually start going through the actual tunnel to actually see the light. And if you're just going to sit outside the tunnel and just hope that a light ends up coming to you, you're playing yourself. You have to actually go through it and actually literally walk through it to actually see that, all right, there's actually a light at the end of the tunnel. I just got to keep going. That's all I got to say. I don't got to say too much else. I just really want you guys to know that you guys have a lot of special characteristics about you. Stop with the whole the therapy, the pills, the X, Y, and Z. Go out and apply some real life knowledge and see where that gets you, you know, by actually locking in and going goals for 12 months. You can reinvent yourself in a lot better ways than you can just talking 24/7 by actually applying things and actually cutting distractions out and making things happen.